and you have put your finger on my theme, which is to communicate with confidence and to not feel icky about it, and communicate so that you can get known, get liked, trusted, or communicate to engage others or inform them or inspire them, whatever you want to do. Because I can't stand wasted talent. I can't stand to see people not growing in their role or enjoying their life.
Amos Madra.
Penny Haslam, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us here today.
Hello, Amos. It's brilliant to be here. Just make sure my mic is lined up so I'm not off mic. Professional.
Exactly.
There we go.
Is it still the finger to mic thing that you do?
Yes. Very, yeah. Handspan away.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
not off mic over here. Oh, no. On mic.
There we go. So, Penny, you've got a lot of experience, as well as running your own business, Bit Famous. You've also held the position of president of the Professional Speakers Association. Journalist, broadcast journalist with the BBC, a lot of experience communicating with people. Tell us, what is it about this role and these different things that excites you and makes you wake up every day and feel that you still want to do more in communicating with people?
Yeah, isn't it strange how you can be attracted to jobs that may not seem like they fit a pattern or a mode or a kind of sector, and it may seem to others or yourself perhaps that you're jumping around all over the place. But actually, if you think about it for long enough, you might find that you've got a theme there, and you have put your finger on my theme, which is to communicate with confidence and to not feel icky about it, and communicate so that you can get known, get liked, trusted, or communicate to engage others or inform them or inspire them, whatever you want to do. Because I can't stand wasted talent. I can't stand to see people not growing in their role or enjoying their life. And so God, it sounds really cheesy, but after, I think, a couple of years of feeling quite in the wilderness, like most people during the pandemic, from time to time, we've felt a bit like really under it. I was a bit out in the wilderness last year, a bit wondering what I'm doing. Yesterday, and this is the cheesy bit, I was sitting at my desk working and I was smiling, going, I really love this. I really like working for myself. I'm so chuffed. I'm getting to help all these people and share my expertise and all my experience, and it's not gone to waste. And I was smiling like some sort of, Snow White person or Sleeping Beauty who's just got like a little birdie on the end of her finger and tweaked, sprinkling the magic. Yeah, it thrills me and it gets me up every morning, the idea that I can help others do great things in the world.
And I think that's where a lot of people are trying to get to, is finding that joy, finding that satisfaction in what they do. And sometimes it just means walking away from traditional roles, traditional jobs. You did that. You walked away from a comfortable position with the BBC as a journalist, and you went out on your own.
I walked away. Yeah, it is extraordinary, isn't it? And beggars belief, really. Why would you walk away from probably a top job in broadcasting, which is being a TV presenter on the news, presenting to the nation, not local, this is massive. You're on air every hour. I was presenting the business news on the news channel on BBC Breakfast, flagship breakfast show stuff. Why on earth would I have turned my back on that? Which is a question I get asked a lot. What were you thinking? Why aren't you still doing it? So it wasn't filling me with joy. Not that I really thought about it in those terms back then. I don't think I was that self-aware. I just didn't feel like I fitted in. Now, I'll give you a good story about why I didn't fit in. And this goes back to my early radio days when I was working on local radio. And I was very excited as a broadcast assistant to be nearly, rubbing shoulders with presenters and newsreaders. And oh my God, I was so excited about it. I couldn't believe it. And I was there because I thought I'm going to get some opportunities to hopefully get on air. And I did. I got asked if I could voice a segment or a clip for the news, the hourly news. They have what's called voices, voice piece, and it's basically a reporter or a newsreader voicing a clip. You'll hear them all the time if you listen to local radio news or national news bulletins. Anyway, someone said, "Oh, can you voice this?" It's like, yeah, of course I can. I'm so excited. And I went into the studio and I had this like 30-second read, and it was about, oh God, it was about a stabbing in South London. It was awful. But I was so excited. I just sounded like I was like full of joy. I went, and then the police said, and the feedback was, "Penny, if you could just be less joyful, sound less smiley and less excited, you're going to fit in nicely here." Now, of course, I should have been aware of how my tone for that particular voice piece, but it kind of spoke volumes to me about the course of news journalism. Brilliant. I have a lot to say. I'm quite a gobby person, gobby northerner, and reading the news, other people's words, or words that had to be neutral, literally just saying what was happening, neutrality, key, balance, key, didn't suit me because I had more to add, I think. So although I was in the top job and I was loving it to a degree, I was actually quite lonely. I was quite down. I think the shift patterns were difficult, tired wise, but also working as a jobbing freelancer, coming in, doing the work, going home again, not really feeling part of the team. And there's an element of being in that role where people look at you and think you have great confidence, you know exactly what you're doing, and they don't stop to support you perhaps and go, "Do you know what? The way you talked about that Tesco horse meat story was amazing. You did a really great job." I mean, you said to me earlier, Amos, that you had seen me on the news channel or BBC Breakfast and thought, "Oh, she's great. Wonder what happened to her." No one ever said, "Hey, you're great, Penny. You're really good at this." And in fact, I did ask for feedback when I was fairly new to TV from an editor. I just wanted to know how to improve. I wanted some reassurance, really, that I was doing the right thing. And he looked me up and down. And he went, "Well, I don't know. I don't know if you're some bimbo who just reads the auto cue or whether you actually know what you're doing." And, imagine that. You just get a slap round the face, put back in your box. How can you thrive in that environment? So my decision to leave was brought about by another opportunity, actually. So it wasn't as clear cut as just deciding to turn my back on it all. I did need something else to go to. And maybe you'll ask me about that in a bit. I don't want to waffle on. As you can tell, I have a lot to say.
It sounds, walking away from a grey, eerie environment and going into something that was joyful. An opportunity came. Now, I'm sure you'll talk to us about that. You mentioned earlier about becoming self-aware. Talk to us about that journey. How did you become self-aware? Did you have an epiphany, or was it something that you'd always been raised with?
Oh, the opposite. I hadn't been raised with self-awareness at all. I don't know many kids in the 70s and 80s who were, to be honest. We had a sort of theme in our household growing up. What's your problem? Why are you sad? If you're sad, stop crying. What are you happy for? Stop being too happy. It wasn't exactly nuanced. There wasn't much self-awareness going on. Get on with it. Don't show off. Don't get too big for your own boots. Just lovely stuff like that. So yeah, self-awareness wasn't really a thing. And I have had pockets of time where I've had an awakening, I suppose. One of the big ones I remember was lying on a yoga mat at the end of a yoga session. I used to go to a neighbourhood centre, like a community centre in Hammersmith, where I lived in London, every week. Brilliant yoga, everyone a bit rough and ready in scrappy old t-shirts and whatnot, 20 years ago, just having a bit of a go at yoga. And yoga does something to you. I don't know what it is, but there's some magic on the mat that takes place that sort of pops stuff into your brain. And I remember lying there after the sort of final cool down session where you breathe a bit on the mat, and the big fluorescent light sort of flickered into light at the end, where the yoga instructor put the lights on. And I looked at that light and I lay there and went, Oh no, it's true, isn't it? I'm going to have to listen to this. I'm not happy, am I? And it was like, dawning realization. Not happy. Not don't know what I'm doing. And it was in a relationship. I'd had a baby, and she was 2 years old. And I realized that none of what I was pretending to myself about the situation was true. And I needed to do something about that situation. And that, I think, was the beginning of opening the door for me to thinking differently about who I was, what life was all about. And maybe having children does that to you a bit, but maybe being up against it in a difficult, not a very supportive relationship also pressures you or makes the point more strongly. You can get tapped on the shoulder a lot of times by the universe or whatever you want to call it, or your own self going, have you thought about this? Is this the right thing? And you ignore it and ignore it and ignore it, whatever you do. And then eventually it might be a yoga mat on a Wednesday evening in a community center where you have your moment. But, eventually you have to do something about it, in my book. And I am a kind of person who does do things. When I realize something, I take action, because that's how I feel comfortable about that realization. So yeah, ended up a single parent just to resolve the end of that story.
But from that, you were able to build, and again, that awakening and finding out more of who you are and what makes you happy.
Yeah, again, though, it was a good decade before I realized again what was going on. Oh, sorry, not a decade, a kind of good 5 years. I had therapy. I think therapy is a brilliant thing. And if you are in any sort of, oh, I wonder if I should have therapy, then you should have therapy. You should go and find somebody, because it's good to talk. Bob Hoskins said it in the BT adverts years ago. It's good to talk. So I found that incredibly useful. I met, after a long period in therapy, my husband, and I was able at that point to open my heart to being loved and to loving someone. And that again was a big opener to finding out more about me and enjoying being me in that relationship. So I've now married that gorgeous man, thankfully, and the show continues. I have also had a great deal of personal awareness or personal development through the choice that I made to become a professional speaker. Now, I didn't choose the subject to talk about. I chose the idea of speaking and communicating. So this is the theme that goes through my career, is that I want to help people and communicate. I can't not communicate. It makes me sad. And I didn't know anything about the industry, about events. I'd maybe chaired a couple of events during my time as a broadcaster. I'd obviously interviewed people. I'd chaired panels as well, moderated panel discussions. I kind of knew a little bit about it, but I'd never stopped to think about, well, what does a speaker do? Do they get paid? How long do they speak for? Where do their slides come from? Where does their knowledge come from? Oh, right. How come some are good and some are really rubbish? But I got prompted to join the Professional Speaking Association, where I met, pretty much 600, 700 people who were bang into personal development. And so I couldn't escape it. I'd kind of found my home, if you like, in developing further and further. And now I'm dead keen myself on it and help others do it, in talking about confidence and how to communicate and all the icky stuff that we feel as human beings and why, a bit of the neuroscience, a bit of the psychology around it. So yeah, it's been a journey. I hate the word Amos, and I always say it in an American accent, but once you start on the yoga mat and you're on the journey, there's no getting off. There's no going back.
But again, looking at that transition from broadcasting, with the BBC, moving on to establishing your own business, a complete change in life, metamorphosis experience, everything was happening. You kept that calm, cool person of who you are, stayed true to who you are. You found your tribe, you established your business, and you've gone on to do some great things. And I think it's a great inspiration to so many people who will be watching and listening to this, not knowing which direction to take. Sometimes you can feel trapped in every which way. and knowing that, there is a way out, there's a way to find opportunities, that is there, it can happen. Talk to us about.
I just
Sorry,
must
go.
say though,
Mm,
it might look externally to others that, oh well, she was on telly and yeah, she split up, but she kind of had it as bad as I did or I do or whatever because she was on telly and she had all that world. And I've always been really, really passionate about revealing the real side of what might look like a certain type of life or privilege and going, well, actually, there was a load of crap underneath all of that, to do with difficulty with being a single parent, affording the rent, affording the tax, to pay, eating into not having savings, having debt, stumbling around, feeling depressed, low mood, anxious all the time, overeating. There's a load of stuff that was going on. And the noughties, full of bling and celebrity, and I want to be a celebrity in media. Oh, I want to do this, and this is what it's like. And we see it now on Instagram and other social media platforms where lifestyle is like, hey, look at me. The reality is more painful, it's sharper, it's harder felt by more people than you'd think. And I hate that idea that you might feel isolated or alone because you don't fit in or you're not quite as good as. So I've always been a real sort of advocate of being honest and not trying to gloss over it and make it all look dead easy, because it ain't.
yeah.
But yeah, everyone has their journey, don't they, and their challenge. And anyway, so yeah,
It's
I'm really
refreshing.
passionate about.
It's refreshing to hear that, actually. It's because it's not something that people feel comfortable to talk about, or people just don't want to talk about because they're portraying an image. Keep going back to it because there were difficult times. At what point did you realize I'm going to be okay? Things will work out. Bill collectors at your door. You're trying to feed your daughter. There's all stuff going on. At what point did you realize things will be just fine?
I haven't yet. But I had to really dig deep for self-reassurance that it was all okay. And in fact, one of my mantras or sayings that I used to get back to when I was in a funk, an anxious funk, maybe about finances. That's where my anxiety goes to, is worrying about money. Is was the kind of, it'll all be fine. This is something for your memoirs. This is a moment when you, in 50 years, you can look back and go, oh, that was a bit of a pickle, wasn't it? So trying to look big, feel it more big picture. And also, the more years you have under your belt of being in business on your own, the more, although the anxiety and the discomfort of not really knowing what you're doing or that it's all going to be okay becomes more comfortable, you can also look back and go, well, hang on a minute, I've been paying the rent and paying the mortgage now for 18 years. It is going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right because everything has always been all right, even though it's been a bit crappy. It's always turned out okay. So yeah, no, I haven't yet got to the point. I don't think I ever will, of just sitting on my laurels and going, oh, I'm so relieved I'm me. It's brilliant. No, there's always got to be a stress. I think there's always got to be a stress. There's always got to be
Yeah.
a bit of anxiety.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't move forward, I don't think. I
No.
don't think you'd be as
Yeah.
as ready to embrace risk, perhaps, or change or new ideas and go, right, this might be the thing. And I'm not saying you jump all over the place, but being open to ideas and suggestions from others and go, oh yeah, I like that. I'm going to go with this. For example, my business pretty much changes all the time. And I'm not saying I'm not saying I jump to the next thing and we don't complete it. I'm just saying there's no great satisfaction. It's not like I go, I make a widget in a factory and I will make those widgets for the next 5 years. When you're dealing in coaching, training, speaking, content, you kind of almost have to keep fresh all the time. So this year, my new big thing is a coaching program for women in leadership to help them be more communicative, feel more confident about communicating and getting known for what they do. So I call it the Make Yourself a Little Bit Famous program. 12 women, coaching, videos, taking it to a kind of new audience, if you like.
Yeah.
It's the same stuff, but in a new way. And I'm really excited about that. So yeah, it's I'm never going to get to the point where I go, I just do a program now. Every year I do four cohorts. Yep, that's me. No, that's not interesting, is it?
And you're doing a great job of it. Some really good testimonials on your website, some big organizations, well-established organizations. So you found the best in those organizations. I think it goes back to that self-belief, knowing what you offer and the value that you have to go and share that and give that to other people. Talk to us about, establishing Bit Famous and reaching out to these organizations, because of course, we all have that self-doubt and we have, those insecurities and, are we really as good as we think we are? How do you
Do
break
you know
through?
what? It's great coming on a podcast. I'd recommend it to anyone because you're actually making me feel really proud of myself, Amos, because it's not often you sit down and reflect on how much you've achieved or what you've got to show for it and all the rest of it when you are keen to show the next thing to the world, you're keen to help the next person, and you're thinking always moving forward, actually assessing your situation and going, actually, I think I might be quite successful. I'm not sure. But you mentioned about going to big companies and being part of the solving problems there. Well, oh no, self-belief is not something that comes easily to me. I have a real, for example, sticking uh, sticking point with calling people up. And do you get that? Or do you just happily call people up on the phone and go, hi, you might run a massive department in a massive company, but I thought I'd phone for a chat. I can't do that. I have to literally like a high jumper. I have to spend months just preparing just to do the call and then I dial the number and I'm like, oh, are they going to answer? And then it goes to voicemail and oh God. So I don't believe I have a place at any table to go in and offer my wares. I am thrilled with the program that I've put together because I've floated it in front of a few larger organizations, individual contacts that I've got, and gone, oh, could you just have a look at this for me? I'm not very sure of it. And they've gone, we'd bite your hand off for this. We love it. I've gone, oh, really? So it's not like I'm going from a place of, hey, come to me and do this thing with me and it's great. No, not at all. And, I'm working in a space, as I'm sure you are, where you're selling yourself, your name as the brand. You haven't got a product to go, oh, you should buy these trousers because they're brilliant. You're saying you should buy my ideas because they're brilliant, and brackets because I'm brilliant. And that takes a lot of support, I think, and a lot of self-awareness to go, this feels a bit icky, but it's necessary nonetheless. So no, I don't think you ever get to a point of self-belief. But what I have done is I've got a really good gang of mates who are also speakers and they run their own businesses, training and coaching. And we support each other and push each other along and go, why haven't you rung that MD? Because, she is waiting for your call. They'll need to buy your service. And you're like, I don't want to, I'm scared. So it happens a lot. It's very difficult. And you say I've got great testimonials on my website. You have to gather that material when you're in business yourself and when you're selling you as the product. People have to buy into you and trust that you know what you're doing. But it doesn't feel comfortable. It feels like showing off. And when you've been brought up, told not to show, don't show off. Stop showing off.
I like what you said there. You spoke about the relationships. It's a huge part of everything. It's the relationships, the people that you've kept around you, the people who've believed in you before you believed in yourself. You borrowing their belief and standing on their belief until yours grew so that you could go out and be independent.
Yeah. Until I joined the Professional Speaking Association 7 years ago, I didn't have many people around me. I had my now husband. He was a big cheerleader for me, but I hadn't surrounded myself with a massive amount of people who got me and were willing to support me. Now, I come from a family background where support wasn't really available. And you see Strictly Come Dancing, don't you? And you've got people like that. Oh, what's her name? AJ from Bolton,
Yeah,
Oldham.
Blackburn.
Okay,
Yeah,
Blackburn, the Blackburn Triangle. Yeah. So, so she's from, and all her family going, oh, we've followed her wherever she goes. And she goes, oh, my family have always been there for me. They've come to everything I've ever done. And you see that a lot. I never had that for some reason. I was always on my own. I always felt very independent and I had to strive to be independent. And so taking advice or even asking for help wasn't part of my personal culture of how to do things. And it was no accident that I ended up a sole journalist, a freelance journalist, just going into work, coming out again, not being part of a team. And it wasn't until I left London and came back up north where I found a wealth of fantastically patient and supportive business owners who were happy to have a coffee and divulge the tricks and techniques that you needed to be in business. And then I joined this association that was basically full of a load of lone wolves, like just like me, who craved support and understanding about the business that we're in, that I found the joy of collaborating, connecting, being vulnerable. And it's, within my mastermind group that last year I was talking about launching the program next year. And I don't know what was holding me back. And I just didn't seem to be able to get going with it. And one of them, who knows me now well enough, went, it's because you've not done it before. You're lacking confidence. And that's okay. I was like, oh, yeah. Okay. So stop fighting myself, stop trying to have to do this. Why aren't you doing this, beating yourself up? But so no, I haven't always been in the mode of enjoying support. I found it difficult. And so that is, I think, my life's challenge on my journey. My journey is to be more vulnerable
yeah.
without feeling like I've been stripped of any power
Mm.
or that I'm weak. And it's just to open up to other people in a way that I enjoy when they open up to me. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so much we can take from this. It's just one of those interviews where you just have to listen to again and again and again. So many golden nuggets to take from this. The Professional Speakers Association, talk to us about that. What you guys get up to, how can people get involved with what you do?
Yeah, the PSA is a national body in the UK and Ireland, and it's part of a global speaking federation where most countries have a speaking association. So if you've ever been to an employee event or a business conference and there have been some people at the front of the room speaking and they might be motivating or they might be informative or entertaining, well, they are professional speakers and they're more likely getting paid than not. And you can become a professional speaker by setting out your stall and saying, I'm a professional speaker and this is what I speak about. There is a lot more to it, obviously. And until recently, I used to go to every PSA meeting in the Northwest, and the PSA UK and Ireland has, I think, 9 or 11 regions. One's in Scotland, Southeast, Southwest, Northwest. Northwest is the best, of course, where I go. And every month I'd come away from a meeting of people exchanging ideas, how to speak better. Yeah, the stagecraft, the presence, that kind of stuff. But really, the key bit of it is the business side of it, how to speak more, how to get more bookings, how to get more fee, how to squeeze more from the customer, how to add more value to the customer and the audiences. Who are your customers? It's certainly not necessarily the people in the audience, but it will be the booker, the event organizer. So who are they? Who's best fit for you? For me, I found that it's corporations, it's large corporates are my best fit. I do my best work there, but I also speak well to women's networks, women in finance, women in property, that kind of thing. And it really works. My topic really works well for them. It's about getting out there, getting known so you can achieve more in your career. So anyway, it's again another journey into understanding the business. For me, you don't just walk into a sector or a business and go, yeah, I've got it, I understand how it all works, unless you've had some time with it or some time at the knee of others who have been doing it for a lot longer. And I love that about the PSA. People talk about, I've been a member or a fellow now for 20 years in the PSA, and I want to give back because I've achieved so much and I know so much, I can share it with others. And it is a fantastic, wonderful? It is. And interestingly, Amos, we're all in competition with each other. And yet here we are, sharing sharing best practice, trying to get speaking up to a really, really high standard, consistently high professional standard all the time. So yeah, it's quality, I have to say. Come along, PSA Northwest or anywhere. And I think you can get your first meeting for free. Something like that. So have a nosy, meet the other weirdos in there like me. And, we're all trying our hardest. And what I love about it is that everyone has their own shtick. And it's easy to criticize other people and go, oh, I don't like their content. I don't like the way they stood to the left of the stage and they delivered that bit. It was a bit rubbish. You can have your own judgment about things. But if that person's paying the mortgage, getting on, supporting their family through the work that they do, and they've got customers, then who are you to judge? So it is quite a humbling and leveling experience. I do love it for that regard, I have to say. I'm really passionate about being a PSA member. And you see people like Boris Johnson, don't you, who was shuffling his papers around. I don't know if you remember, he was speaking at a CBI conference and he lost his way.
Oh, they're talking about Peppa Pig World.
And then ended up riffing off Peppa Pig World to an audience of business. They want to know where's leadership? Where are we going? What's the vision? Yeah. Supply chain, talent, Brexit, pandemic, just a few things there to mention. And honestly, as a professional speaker, you look at that and go, I can't believe that you're doing that. It's so awful. But anyway, so yeah, it's not doing that. It's doing the opposite of a bojo.
I think he just does what he likes, parties and all sorts. Anyway, that's another conversation.
Oh, come on. It was cheese and wine, Amos.
A gathering, yes. So how can people find out more? Is there a website that we can go and register our interest?
Yeah, you can actually. You can register your interest in PSA, so Professional Speaking Association, PSA. You can go along there. You can find out more about me at just Google Penny Haslam, and then you'll find a podcast, and you'll find a website, and you'll find the website for BitFamous, which is what I hope to make people a little bit famous. And you can buy my book and do all that kind of stuff. So there's lots to go at. And obviously, if you want to get in touch and find out more about the PSA, then happy to talk to anyone about joining and seeing you there.
Penny, it's been an absolute joy just talking to you, hearing your story, hearing your journey.
Journey.
That's
there you go, American. Yeah, American accent.
A lot of ups and downs. It's not been smooth sailing, but
life isn't, though, is it, Amos?
No, it isn't.
If I was to ask you about all that, I'm sure you wouldn't go, yeah, it was really easy and I loved every minute.
Yeah, a lot of doubt, uncertainty, worry, and all that stuff. But yeah, at least you've shown that there is a way through, there is a way forward, and that should give us all a bit more confidence in what we do. So I just want to say a huge thank you for that.
Well, thank you for bigging me up. I feel great now. It's lovely. It's like a spa. Spa for the brain.
If you want some amazing inspiration, check out the videos next to me, and I'll see you right there.